Hi, and welcome to this quick tool review. This time around we'll be taking a look at a couple of lights. They're identical, so we'll look at one of them in detail. You know me, I'm always willing to look at lights if they're willing to send them to me, because in my garage shop there never seems to be enough light where you need it. And you know, really good high quality commercial lighting is exceptionally expensive. So I'm always looking for the inexpensive solutions, and I often pay for it because historically, longevity has not been super great. I've had several of the ones sent to me for evaluation die after just maybe 1,000 or 2 hours, which is not really that long in my book. This set comes from Vevor, and you know, I've evaluated a lot of their stuff, and you know, if they're going to send them to me, I'll take a look at them, because lights are always in need, and the less expensive ones seem to have limited life expectancy. The packaging, like most Vevor products, is very good. I mean, foam protected, cut out pieces. Can't be cheap to do that, even if they laser cut them. Still, this is high quality foam, fairly expensive. So it comes 2 lights in a package, and the rear piece separates and is for mounting. Very light. They're about 3.5 pounds a light. Let me grab them both out of the package, see if there's any documentation, and I'll tell you a little more about them. They're about 11 inches long, 7 inches deep, and at the highest point about 6 inches tall. Lowest point about 2 inches tall. They're supposed to be 10,800 lumens at 5,000 Kelvin color temperature, which is fairly blue. That's daylight. Even, you know, leaning heavier to the blue end of the spectrum is 6,500 Kelvin. If you have warm lighting, that's usually in the 3,000 or so Kelvin range. So these are fairly blue, fairly white light. 180 LED beads, 100 watt draw on the AC side, which is, you know, surprising for an LED light. That's quite a bit. IP65 waterproof, which is nice. 270 degree spread supposedly from the light. The price is about $90 for 2, or $45 a light. They also come in a 4-pack, and there's also a 2 and 4-pack of the 120 watt model, which is higher lumen output. It's got a light sensor on the side of each one, where it'll turn on at night, turn off in the morning, kind of thing, automatically. And then they actually gave a spec that I thought was surprising, considering it's fairly modest. So they said it's better than, these should last better than 3,000 hours. So let's say 3,000 would be the absolute worst case. Well, 3,000 hours at 8 hours a night is 375 days. And since this is presumably going off every night, that will happen sooner than later. I will give them huge kudos for honesty in saying about, you know, what they realistically think the life expectancy of these guys is. Let's take a look at the construction, because I'm kind of curious. I'm going to pop one of these apart and see how it goes together. So for starters, the mounting plate piece of this comes off, which I think is a really interesting design. So you can mount it up against the wall and then just swap out this assembly. So suppose if you bought a few extras, you'd be good to go for quite a while. Just 2 screws, and the other side hinges. And it looks like they're separable hinges, although I'm not 100% certain, but looking at the design, it looks like the hinges are separable. The watertight gasket preloads the side of this, and these are chrome plated screws, not stainless. But yeah, the other side is hinged, and it looks like it comes off. Yes, it does. Can pop the whole piece off, so you can go ahead and mount this up against the wall and not worry about it. The gasket is I don't know, it's maybe glued into the frame. I think it's, no, it's a little separate piece. I thought maybe they silicone glued this. And then it's got a connector to remove the back plate so you can mount it so it's quick connected with a waterproof connector. So that's pretty darn cool. I like that. It's a nice touch. So waterproof AC connector. I thought these were mostly DC. I'm a little surprised that it's AC. Interesting also is they used an AC cord here. This is literally just cut off AC cord material. That's also a little surprising to me. And you can see the light sensor is here, and there is a gasket on the outside of it. There's also a gasket on the power cord going in. Well, not a gasket. They used some silicone sealer. They also did on this, but it doesn't completely cover the hole. Now, I wouldn't expect light to get water to get in here inside this piece, because it's already got a gasket around it, but if water did manage to get in here, it wouldn't be completely prevented from going inside because the silicone sealer didn't cover all the way there. To get into this portion of it, everything mounts from the front, so if we want to get into there, we're going to have to take out a bunch of screws, so let's do that next. Before I go on, I forgot to mention, Vevor did give 2 screws for each light, which is, I don't know if I'd want to mount this up with just 2 screws, especially since it can be externally mounted. I don't know. They also have threaded holes in here, so you could mount it to something with threaded holes. There's also an electrical entry point over here and one in the bottom with plastic plugs in it that look like they unscrew. Sorry about that. Yes, they do unscrew. So one here, one here. They have threaded mounting points all over the place. Looks like originally designed for a PC board or something kind of interesting. Some of them are external. There are 3 external points that are threaded the other direction. Looks like if you want to mount a piece of, you know, a plate, a steel plate or aluminum plate on the outside, like maybe a patio or something, I don't know. You could screw right through into the threaded inserts, but interesting design. All right, let's move on to the light itself. Looks like it's got a plastic surround bit that presses on a gasket. We've seen this design before. These are very short screws. Interestingly enough, the screws being short gives an assembly advantage because when they're installing them, they don't have to run their drill motors long, and if you save a second or 2 on each screw, that really adds up, considering there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 14, 16 screws you got to undo to get this thing together. So when they're assembling in the factory, that makes a difference. The gasket is good and tight. I should have gone in diagonals to release these screws, because once I released a couple of the screws, it had the top pop off. All right. Oh, not a separate plastic bit. It's all part of the seal here, and here's the silicone seal. Oh, that's very interesting. Oh, I like the design. That's kind of interesting. So they've basically got lead drivers all over the place on this guy, or maybe are these MOSFETs? Let's see if I can get a part number off one of these. So LED lights want to be fed with a constant current supply, not constant voltage, because the LEDs will have a certain brightness at a certain current. So that's probably what they did. I like the fact that this is an aluminum PC board, aluminum back PC board, right up against this huge aluminum plate with another aluminum plate. So good heat sinking there, including this side, which is internal, but still that'll radiate some heat into the box. There's a little bit of solder bridge there, right here. That could prevent that from working. And we'll clean that off. So each one of these chips here is a single channel, constant current lead driver. They're designed to put out 100 milliamps. Wow, quite a voltage range, 0.5 to 450 volts. So they take the incoming voltage and drop it down only slightly, and then use one of these constant current drivers to feed the whole line here. All right, well, that's an interesting design. Here's a close-up of the PC board for you. Very neat layout, nicely heat sunk. Looks like they have varistors on the input for protection, for over voltage protection spikes on the line, which is kind of interesting. It looks like a direct AC in conversion kind of technology. There's a full wave bridge here. Maybe that's just to jumpstart a switching converter. There's a MOSFET over here. And then there's these constant current supplies. I'd have to dig into it deeper to figure out exactly what's going on here. But what do you say we put this back together and light it up, see how bright it is. All right, so I have quite a bit of light on in here, and this light is facing at me, preferably not the camera. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, it's got a light sensor here. There it is. Wow, okay. Too bright to look at, even though you're off axis. All right, let me turn off some lights around here and see what we get. Okay, there's lighting my bench. It does have some interesting lines. It's not a very even field of light. I'm holding it up pretty high here. It's less light than I have in the shop normally, but I've got a few lights right over my bench and they're spotlights. This one is a wide diffusion light, so it sort of lights a pretty wide area. So there's how much light in my shop it provides by itself. It's a pretty good amount. I don't know what 10,000 lumens should look like. I know that most of the bulbs I have in here are like in the 1,000 lumen range, so this should be 10 times as bright, and it probably is because it spreads light over a really wide area, but it does have some lines in it based on the patterns they cut in the plastic to just spread the light. And those lines are, well, indoors are a little annoying if you're going to use it for lighting indoors, but outside probably not so much of a problem. It's pretty darn bright, and the sensor is pretty quick to turn it on and off. This light's bright enough that the sensor itself, just from the light being shown out of the bulb, is almost enough to turn the sensor off again like it's daylight. So if you have any reflecting surfaces too close, it's going to turn the light right off again, which is kind of interesting. But reasonably bright. This one covers a really nice area, but these lines, because of the plastic layout, not my favorite. I really appreciate the fact that they told you up front what the life expectancy was going to be, at least, you know, at least 3,000 hours, so at least a year you're going to get out of this. But if you go and mount this to the side of your house or something, I don't know, it would be better suited rather than bypass this sensor and use this for, you know, on a switch when you like go out to put out the garbage or something. If this ran every day for 8 hours, besides 100 watts is a lot to run for 8 hours, that's about 0.8 of a kilowatt hour a day you're throwing out there. It also would be dead in just over a year and change, just barely, potentially. They say it's more than 3,000, so it could be a lot more than 3,000, but you figure if it was a lot more, they'd say so. So for 40 bucks, I don't know, I'm on the fence about this one, guys. I'm going to give it a thumb sideways, like maybe specific use cases, but I'm not super excited about it. It's not my favorite light I've seen. I like the shape. I like the fact it mounts on the wall. I like the fact that it has a removable back plate, so you can mount that and then just snap the light up on it with a quick release cable, which means you could buy a 4-pack of these if you need to install one. That would give you 3 more spares when it burns out, I guess. That's a way to look at it. The waterproofedness is reasonable. The seals seem good. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you find it useful. Hope to see you next time.